Peace. In the name of Allah, I'm Aubrey Muhammad. I pray that everyone is well. Hempstead family, friends, and believers, welcome to my live session. I'm live right here on the Heights. And I know it is because I can smell the weed. I'm actually sitting here directly at the Westbury Boulevard at the Old Post. Remember the American Legion? In fact, I think, I could swing this thing around this. Yeah, I can. It's torn down. It's been there for a long time. I remember this as a child. American Legion in the 70s. I'm on the Heights. And we call it the Crown Heights in Hempstead. Back in the 70s, oh my God, this was stomping ground, man. I was a child growing up on 33 East Graham, or 55 Grove, then 33 East Graham in the early 70s. In 79 over there at 299 Jackson, and then at 79 to like the late 80s, I was hanging out here hard. And this is at the corner of Hempstead and Westbury Boulevard. A few iconic spots around here. If you look down the block, you will see Mr. Edwards' old store next to that laundromat. It's a little down there. I think somebody in that yellow shirt, you can see it. I didn't want to go too far down there. But that was Mr. Edwards, and I never forget Mr. Edwards. Every time I walked in that deli, may Allah be pleased with him, his son Ron, but that was who I grew up with and knew. And the other children, I forgot Timothy, I believe. He was older than me, but me and Ron was about the same age. And every time I went in that deli, I would slide open that ice cream chest, and that ice cream smell was so creamy and delicious, and the candy in there. I'll never forget that. As a child, and then later on, I would go in there buying some munchies and 40s, having a good time on the Heights. And what is that, Yale? I see blowers up the block. Thomasina, may Allah be pleased with her. Oh my God, this was the spot. Monroe and them house is still there, I believe. A lot of good memories here. And this is the corner of Hempstead. I'm gonna turn it around and turn it right back. I'm gonna show y'all up the block. That's Hempstead, right down there. And that was my main hangout spot. Hempstead, oh Lord, this is the corner of Princeton. But it's mainly Hempstead, and we was hanging hard on Union, Yale, all on the Heights because we was at 299 Jackson. And one thing struck out to me, which is the subject today, which really have me reflecting a lot on Hempstead all my life. Growing up, pretty decent growing up. It was an average FBA growing up. Foundational Black Americans here in Hempstead. We dominated Hempstead in the 60s and the 70s. It was all black mainly. What you do is you go look at the school books, the high school yearbooks, all the school books, some school pictures, you'll see the change in face of Hempstead. But in the 90s, something happened. It wasn't changing, it was engineered. They started engineering the population of Hempstead, which reflects that now. This is entirely different. Matter of fact, one of the last white families that lived in Hempstead amongst us literally was this house right here. I'm right next to it. See that house right there? Right there. That's a nice brick house. Nice little small cutaway in the side, little brick house. It was like the last white family around here. One white man lived down on Union. He was married to a black woman. Or going, I don't know if they was married. Very few white people around, and few Latinos. We could count the number, we call them Spanish. We could count the number of Spanish people on each block. They were mainly back on that side street. What is that, Bennett, I think? That you could count the number of Spanish. This was mainly black, the Heights. Why? Because of white flight. So I started reflecting in the 80s, excuse me. I started reflecting in the 80s about how we had things and I really didn't notice. Over there on Union, most of those stores were black. At one time, every store on Union was black owned. Did you know that? Even the Muslim laundromat at one time. Mr. Edwards here, Gene's Barbershop, may Allah be pleased with Gene. Gene's Barbershop is iconic. The Doric Lounge is down there. I think it was something else. I'm not sure if that was always the lodge. The Doric Lodge. The last I believe, Brother Naquan was the, I forgot what that's called, the potentate. He was over there, whatever, you know, the Masons, Black Masons. At the Doric Lodge, a lot of people influential in Hempstead went to that lodge, the Doric Lodge. They redid it looks like. And I wish they would get more involved in the community with us and get into our cultural nationalism. Foundational Black American cultural nationalism. Those of us that's native to the Americas, black people that built the country. And we've been scattered about. And Hempstead is a case study. Hempstead is a case study. Hempstead really was one of the all-black success stories. People was, you feel you had made it when you came to Hempstead in the 60s and the 70s. From Manhattan, Brooklyn. If you came from the South, you mainly was in Harlem. You mainly was in certain parts of Brooklyn. We wasn't all up in Queens, all right. We wasn't all up in there. We was in Manhattan, Harlem. We was in Brooklyn, Brooklyn, and a little bit of Queens when we first came. And then in the 70s, it was rough in New York City in the 70s, man. Ooh, the blackout, the Son of Sam. New York City was grimy, especially Manhattan. Litter, graffiti. It was rough. We remember them days. Back in the late 70s, you had to watch your back walking through New York City. You have to watch your back now because they done imported third world foreigners into New York. It's like a different country now. But back then it was grimy. Now it's engineered. You know, it's artificial. It's imposed. You could see it happening. Back then you didn't realize it. You went with the flow. There's plenty of opportunities. Black people from the South, we the hustlers. We was the original righteous hustlers. We had some, other hustlers too, the Numbers, a little this or that, a little that. Remember Malcolm X movie with Spike Lee? Which Spike Lee messed up that movie. He need to redo it again and get our guidance into the life of Malcolm, please. He was undermined by the deep state. So, remember Malcolm walking to that bar? I think that was the Lenox Lounge, which was up at an iconic place in Harlem. And Malcolm walked up to the bartender, said, "What's up with West Indian Archie?" "Archie, who was that?" He says, "West Indian Archie." He said, "What are you into? What's his angle?" He said, "Little of this, little of that." That's what we did all around here on the Heights in Hempstead, Harlem, Brooklyn. But when you came to Hempstead, it was considered a success. You considered that you made it. Everyone wanted to be here in the 60s and the 70s. And in the 70s, it was beautiful over here. It was beautiful over here on the Heights. As a child in the 70s, I remember we had from the South, all of us that came up, we called our friends and some relatives, mainly our friends who were associated with us, our aunties, our uncles, our cousins. Those children were our cousins. We call them cousins. To this day, I call non-biological friends from the Carolinas, especially North Carolina, cuz. What's up, cuz? We was hanging out together right here on the Heights, right here in Hempstead. And in the 70s, I never forget that July 4th, it's behind this house here. It's the brown house here. But Nellie, my Aunt Nellie, Kenny Richardson, may Allah be pleased with him, Paul, and Frankie, and Missy, they lived in that house behind this brown house. See that brown house right there? That beige house. It's the corner of that small house. It's at the corner of Princeton, across the street. My Aunt Nellie, she lived there. She lived upstairs. And during the summer in the early 70s, July 4th, oh my God, July 4th cookouts, all the summer cookouts, it was live here. This was beautiful. This was heaven for us. Family did a little drinking, a little cutting up with a little something, but mainly it was family. And right there on that corner, our cousin Kenny, all the youngsters from the Heights. My Kenny Richardson, may Allah be pleased with him. He was the older children. His older brothers, Frankie and Paul, they were older, our older cousins, but Kenny was a little older than me. But we had to hang out. I had to hang out with Kenny. You'll see him in some of them family pictures I have at Coney Island and the motel in West Hempstead. That's right, when it was nice. My Uncle Charlie used to work there. And I think they had a pool on the top. And that's when it was pretty nice, you know what I'm saying? But up until it was nice everywhere out here in the 70s. Shoot, there wasn't no real bad spaces out here. If you had a house, you had a huge yard. Now, it may not have been kept up. If you was poor and struggling, you could have been on Section 8. But you was saving up and you had something. Right here at this corner, we was celebrating July 4th, and I believe that was my cousin Kenny and the older youth right there at that corner. We used to hang out during the holidays, and I never forget it. It was a solid brother legendary on the Heights. His name was Steve Lawrence, right there at the corner, Princeton and Remsen. We hung out hard around here. It's Wesley down the block, Wesley Street, and then Princeton right there, my cousin Kenny and Steve Lawrence. May Allah be pleased with Steve Lawrence. He's a Heights legend. You know, it's tragic how he passed, but may Allah be pleased with him. He was one of the older brothers. Steve was off the chain. They had the firecrackers. It was a big deal to have a little pack of firecrackers. You would light it, it would pop. You know, we would set them down, we would do them one by one, mainly, but some people would set off the whole pack, especially when we was finishing up. We had a bag of fireworks, July 4th. I'll never forget Steve Lawrence. He was daring. Steve used to have the M80s. And we was like, oh man, that was something different. That was bold. That was, the bigger boys, the bigger child. They had the bigger fireworks, the ones that shot up in the air and burst. We had the little sizzlers and the rockets. Steve used to hold the M80s right there at that corner. And he would light it. And he would wait until the fuse got low. And then he would throw it up in the air. And then as it was descending down, it would boom, blow up in the air. And that was a big deal to us. We got so excited by that he could do that. That was like holding a hand grenade. Pulling the thing and throwing it and letting it blow. And in one M80 he lit, and the fuse went a little fast, and he threw it fast, and it blew up like right near his ear, up in the air. But Steve was daring, and all of the youngsters around there, we were children, and this is the 70s on the Heights. We was hanging out, having good fun, and as children, later on as we grew up, we started getting in them streets. So we as children hung out, we knew the older children, and they was getting in trouble, but this is the thing, in the 70s and 80s. In the 80s, all them black businesses on Union were there, even the cleaners. That was the Muslim cleaners, Sunni Muslim cleaners, the black, from Imam Wafdi Muhammad's people owned that cleaners. And Mrs. Susie, I believe, had the game store, and I did some mischief there. I got a story about that right here on this block. That's why I'm here on the Heights. I'm not gonna tell it now. So I've got to go back to Oceanside about a half an hour. But on the Heights, them same youngsters, we had things to do. Our parents would take us places. We went to family outings. We weren't getting in all that trouble. Nassau County was a small jail then. In the 70s, had a lot of jobs around here. And in the 80s, but in the 90s, things started decaying. In the 80s, we started losing all the youth services. We started losing the community centers. They got rid of all that, all these services. All that was by design. Why? That gave us, we used to hanging out with each other. Youngsters ain't nothing to do, getting high, drinking 40s. Over there at, our elders came here at the American Legion. This was the veterans. My stepdad, Earl Hightower, used to come here. I have a picture of him with a honey bun. That was a man, I think he was a bartender there, I believe. Well, back then, masculine men, men were so masculine in the 70s, they could have sweet names like that, and still be considered a strong masculine men. His name was Honey Bun. I think it was because of his complexion. I have a picture with him and Earl Hightower here at the American Legion. They had clubs around Hempstead. They had places for older people to go. Even though they were bars, I don't agree with that, but they were places to go. They were drinking in there, cutting up a little. I think it was the Scorpio Lounge, the Misty Blue over here on the Heights, the Happening, the native New York, all spots like that, all throughout Hempstead. They had places to go. And youth had places to go. We had the community centers. The parks were active. We were live in them parks. The parks had activities. Percy Jackson Youth Center, BOCES. We had all these programs. We had things to do in the early 80s that got cut off in the mid 80s. In the mid 80s, we had nothing to do. So what we do, streets. And no accident, no accident, they started expanding Nassau County Jail. I was in there when they was doing it. That new jail, they called it the Satellite. It's a whole new building they built. Before they built it, I was in work release over there. That work release used to be a farm. They had a potato farm. And some of the inmates would go and work in the farm. And I never forget it because me and Mike, me and Rob, I said Mike, me and Rob was in a trailer in work release, and we worked in the kitchen. So we had a good job. We were chilling. We was hanging out all day. And the white boys was working in the potato farm. They were planting potatoes, what do you call it? Farming. They were farming potatoes. And that was ironic to me that we was chilling in the kitchen, had a nice job, just chilling all the time, and they were working in a potato farm. Well, they had that much land there. It was across from the golf course, that East Meadow High School and stuff like that, next to what was called Meadowbrook Hospital. I was born in that hospital, Meadowbrook Hospital, January 18th, 1966. And they expanded the jail. See, where they put the resources is where they plan for you to go. They pull the resources from constructive stuff, from cultivation, from good things, and I got a bee joining me for the live, as long as he don't sting me. As long as the resources are aimed towards a certain direction, that's what they cultivate you for. That's where you lay. Wherever the resources are, they say, look, we got a program here, we got this, we got that there. You go in that direction. And that's how they got us. Man, this bee is just not gonna leave me alone, is he? Maybe I'll toss, spray some cologne over there. Get him probably attracted to my cologne. Where they put the resources is where you will go. Where they aim you, you will go. They put the money towards the jails. They're gonna fill up the jails. They take them away from cultivation programs, youth programs, training. They had the SAL over there on the back of Terrace. Salvation Army. Don Ryan was a coach there, I believe. Yeah, for a long time. But Don was active in the high school too. We had a whole bunch of activities to do at the SAL. We had the camps. St. George Church had a camp. I was a child in the 70s. Went to St. George Church. They had a camp program. We went there and learned the little nylon strings. We would make the nylon, the string braids, braid little keychains and stuff like that. All types of stuff we was doing. Leatherworks and woodworks. We had, in the middle school, they had wood shop. They had printing class. But we don't have those activities today. We don't have 3D printing. We don't have industrious things. We don't have entrepreneurial teaching. We don't have owning the neighborhood. That's not even in the vocabulary. That's an alien concept they have in Hempstead. If you could find black students in the school anymore, it ain't no accident they don't show them yearbooks no more hardly. Why? Because it's mainly Latino. And all that school board and everybody agree with that. They agree with the importation of replacements for us. It's been going on for decades, and I watched it all right here. This is the Heights, Westbury Boulevard, Remsen and Yale, the old Mr. Edwards spot. Matter of fact, remnants of his sign is still there. Remnants of Mr. Edwards' sign is underneath that new one, the new cheap one. There's a few things like that in Hempstead. That beautiful tile, marble and tile in the village. Remember where Grant's was? Them stores next to that, the little small shops. When you walk in the entrance of the salon over there across from the fish market, if you look down on a few of those places, you'll see old tile from the 40s and the 50s, mainly the 50s, when Hempstead was a shopping mecca. They had tile, beautiful, the stores were designed nice. They designed the stores nice, with beauty, concept. They had, the store, they put effort, they put design, they put an impression in the architecture, you know what I'm saying? And not just these goddamn developers, these oligarch developers who only care about building things for convenience. They make them transferable for a new population. They don't design them for a people, the aesthetics to match the nature of the people. We are more cosmopolitan. We are more extended family, you know what I'm saying? We come from a more sedentary nature, black people. That Caucasian, he's more caveman, he's more nomadic. He's more city, in that city state, all squeezed together in apartments. That's why all they're doing is building apartments. These caves, they ain't got no terraces. They're just all caves, and charging you an arm and a leg. We got to start designing our own stuff. And in the 80s, that struck me. I said, we're losing stuff, we don't own it. And I always thought, this when I was hanging out, getting high, well, the 5% teaching put a lot of wisdom in us and put some sense in us, especially study and observation, knowledge and wisdom. The 5% teaching did that. And as a 5%er, I used to think, man, how come we don't own this? Who owns it? And why do they have us renting? Why do they have us owning the cars, stuff like that, but we didn't own the land and the property to where we could claim as ours and to build like generationally with families? That struck me. And then when I figured out how nomadic we were, it was by design. It's to keep us off balance so that we can't say, look, you're in this neighborhood, we become territorial, we become possessive. We say, look, this is ours. What are you doing here? You know, we used to check people back in Hempstead. Now it's more like whoever come, you come. You know, we leave the gates open too much. We got too much outside interference. We're being engineered by others. And we need to take control of our communities, and we need protections for that. So we do have a solution, and which I'm going to present to you at the conclusion of this. But it struck me how others, they make us nomadic, but the people who are doing it are not. The people who are engineering and developing our civics and all these economic logistics and everything for the entire population of America, most of them live right over there in the North Hills. If you go get a Google map and you go to Hempstead and you get a base, you get an idea of who these people are, which I showed you over at Avalon and Westbury. I would point over there to the North Hills, Old Westbury, Old Brookville, all those towns named old and stuff. That's old money. They live in lush green places. Their houses are not on the market. You cannot buy their houses. Their houses are done privately. They have private everything. They are private. But us, we're the public. And especially foundational black Americans. Black people, us from the South, who built the country, been here hundreds of years. In return, built the country, in return got the worst treatment of any humans in the annals of history. For us, they got programs that are temporary. They funded. They can, if they feed you, they can starve you. And we fell victim to that. Why? Because we trust them. Because we don't know the devil. You cannot buy their homes. It's private. But for us, we on the auction block. We can be shuffled around. We can be manipulated. They can maneuver around us easily with tricks and lies. They're master trolls, and their masters are tricks and lies. And they set us up. They lured us into the DNC, got us thinking that the Democrats were on our side, that Democrat and Republicans are like good cop, bad cop. They messed us over bad. Now look at the DNC and the lack of ownership we have everywhere. Atlanta, we losing Atlanta. They lured us down there with a lower cost of living. Now they're jacking everything up. They do it all through taxes, property taxes, and interest rates. It's all by design. Another thing struck me about ownership and how we're manipulated with the presidency of Trump. That's the 47th presidency. But they were setting him up for 40. They were working on him. Now who were they working on Trump with? But this last year, the DNC and the oligarchs, they set up black prosecutors to go against Trump. Letitia James, I forgot his name. I can't remember his name. It done vanished me. It turned the other Bragg was Alvin Bragg. I forgot something like that. And Fannie down south. These were the main three, but they had others that were hounding Trump. They had them as the face, as prosecuting Trump. And one, I think is Alvin Bragg, I believe, because some jackass got on LinkedIn and was promoting him. Yeah, he's going after Trump. And I went on LinkedIn and I commented on that post. It was a influential, positive, black motivational speaker. He was pictured with Alvin Bragg, who was prosecuting Trump, and he was congratulating him. Congratulations on going after the racists. Congratulations on going like that. This was before the election, this recent election. And I commented and I said, that moron literally is going to get Trump elected by what you're doing. You're attacking him, you're going to get him elected. They knew Trump was going to get elected. They knew it. Obama knew. He said, don't elect Kamala. Nobody likes her. Nobody still likes her. They have to impose on her. They have to superimpose her. They have to engineer her in. They got to calculate, they got to impose her as pushing, force feeding her to us. They put Letitia James as a attack dog on him, and she was just going off on him. They put Alvin Bragg, if I'm saying that right, I forgot his name. He'd been out the light for a while. I think that's his name. He's a prosecutor. They put Fannie down, I think she was Maryland, someplace like that. They put those on him. And what they wanted to do was they sent an assassin to put a bullet in Trump's head. That kook on the tin hot ceiling of the Secret Service building, that one of the snipers, the cuckoo bird who went crawling across the hot tin ceiling where Secret Service agents were based in the building, he was doing that on the roof of a building they were in. They were stationed all around, watching him the whole time. He was a patsy. The assassin was by that water tower in the trees. In Pennsylvania, when they went to pop Trump in the head, they got him in the ear. Well, that ear shot didn't come from cuckoo bird, the dodo bird. It didn't come from that crash dummy. It came from the real assassin, the deep state. Remember Chuck Schumer said, oh yeah, the deep state, they know how to get you 2 ways from Sunday. He said something like that. No good Chuck Schumer, no good oligarch stooge and operative. They went to pop Trump's head, his brain open like they did JFK in front of everybody. But Trump, by the will of Allah, the permissive will of Allah, turned his head and that bullet took his ear. That was aimed straight for his brain. And he moved at the last second. That dodo bird on the hot tin thing couldn't hit him with an AR-15 with a red dot. He didn't have a scope. He had a red dot. That's like 50 yards the most. He was at 150 yards. At 150 yards, you need a scope for that with an AR. Even a sniper's rifle, you may luck up and hit him, but not in the brain like that. When they splattered his brain across the screen, what they wanted was the revolutionaries. They wanted the patriots. They wanted all the militias to rally up against those who they could blame. And who was that? Letitia James, Alvin Bragg, and Fannie. They put black faces as attack dogs, when in fact it was the Zionists, the same ones who have Trump by a string. They have Trump as a puppet on a string. They're just disgraceful how Trump is doing him, which he's doing on purpose. Trump is trying to show how they control him. He's trying to stir up revolution. Trump is trying to stir up the patriots to get the Zionists off of him, because he can't do it alone. Just like they put that bullet in the head, they could easily do that. They plan and Allah plan. So Trump is virtual signaling. Look, they got me, y'all. They got him with them pictures to Epstein Island. They got him hard. So after Trump realized that, he said, I can't blatantly go after him. They're splattered. He's trying to get the revolutionary, he's trying to get the patriots and the militias mainly to go into the government, seize it, and take control the way they can't, the way the Zionists can't blackmail people. It's horrible how they blackmailing people. Look at the Epstein list. That's clear evidence of what's going on. But that's what he's trying to do. And the Democrats don't give a shit about us. You keep supporting these people who are planning against us. They playing us like good cop, bad cop. Biden, he pardoned all the white people. He pardoned his crackhead son. Before he would pardon you, he didn't pardon them. Letitia James, Fannie, all those who stood up as attack dogs, all the black ones, he didn't pardon any of them. But he pardoned his crackhead son before he would pardon them. Isn't that something? That's the fools they make out of us, because you put so much trust and energy in them. And that's a clear manifestation of why we must change. We must turn to black, foundational black cultural nationalism. Now, lately you've been hearing me say Native Black Americans. I used to say that all what we were in one. Black people that built the country, been here hundreds of years. We call ourselves black people, black Americans. We would say Negro, colored, but Negro, colored, then black. Master Fard Muhammad called it black in the 30s. He gave us that title. But then recently, we've come to define ourselves, not define ourselves, describe ourselves. The definition is God. Black, the essence of originality. That's who we are. But politically and, lineage-based, we say foundational black Americans. Foundation, we built the country. Native black Americans, pretty much the same, but native, you associate the red Indian with that, who migrated here later with the Mongol and stuff. Whole bunch of waves of migrations here. But the first ones were black. The whole Western Hemisphere was black. 40,000 years ago, 25,000 years ago, when there were no white people on the planet. This is our home, if we connected to it from the West. So you hear American ADOS, American descendants slaves, and you hear freedmen. Freedmen is more of a political term. After slavery, we were freedmen. We were enslaved, foundational black Americans. We were black Americans enslaved, and then the Freedmen's Bureau was founded after the Civil War, which was a foundational black American revolt. That was us revolting. We got too much to handle. They try to make white people change. You ain't never changed. We change you. You don't change. You have never changed. Anti-nature and anti-black does not change, because nature remains the same, and nature reacts. So you may hear me say the different terms, but for now, black folk from the South, I'll be saying FBA, Foundational Black American, and freedmen, because politically and legally we making moves through freedmen, which the point I wanted to make to you today, we must do something for ourselves. We got to focus. We got to focus our energy towards our nationalism. Foundational Black American nationalism. Go, if you from the South, black people from the South, you built the country, you've been here hundreds of years, go get your lineage checked, go get verified, go join freedmennation.org. That's a good brother from Tennessee that kick-started that. He got it up and running. We moving. We getting things done. Matter of fact, I got to do some paperwork with them. I couldn't do it because I had some legal challenges. The enemy trying to evict my mom and pray for mom. They still trolling her. And I think that savage above her that live in apartment 457, I think something happened to him. I believe Allah probably killed his no good ass. And Allah Akbar, good riddance. He ain't up there no more. I think he did something to him. We've been praying. Allah answers prayers. If Allah do something to you, you can't avert it, buddy. It's a reckoning. A reckoning. That's Allah, Allahu Akbar. Still, an empty apartment, they got people trolling her from up there. Now, who's going up there? That's the maintenance and the management. That's the same thing they were doing to her since Avalon. Because it's the same owners, Blackstone, the same culprits, the same demons. They're trolls, they're troublemakers, evil asses. And you see what Allah does to him in his good term. We've been praying, haven't we? You see how events coming out. And you keep playing with righteous people, Allah reacts. And Allah fights and he defends us. I know sometimes we get weary, we lose faith, and blame Allah. Allah, why you don't like me? You got it like that? So haven't you heard people say that God don't like black people? Because all the stuff we're going through, we coming out on top very soon. When we get our energy right and our spirits aligned, right with our soul, our minds, energy, and the soul, and our hearts in the right place. We got to put our hearts in the right place to become more of an extended family. everything will fall in place after that. But to get in place, and let's do it specifically, let's make some moves very fast. We can get this done fast. Very simple. If you're from the South, join freedmennation.org. Get your lineage done. Get verified, and we'll be making moves. Protections with law, signing up for reparations. We're going to provide our own selves with reparations. There's so many things we could do. All these moves they're making against us, all this discrimination, from centuries of what they owe us, the debt they owe, all that can be recounseled through organization. That's freedmennation.org. Let's do that. Matter of fact, it's a whole bunch of paperwork I got to do for that, but I've been distracted by the enemy harassing us through legal means. She don't even have a court date anymore. They're just playing games. I told you they're playing games. That legal aid. Who determines who the lawyers are defending us? It ain't our community, it's not us. Saying, you're in trouble, you go into a court of law, it's the people versus such and so and so. Well, the people haven't decided who our legal aids are. The people haven't decided. Who determined it? The same oligarchs who building the goddamn jail. Don't you know the lawyers on the legal aid society? Why are they there? They don't stay there forever. What do? Them son of a bitches become part of the law firms that's locking you up, that's putting lawsuits against you. That's evicting you from your home. That's who they are. Go look at somebody who's evicting you from your house. That lawyer's name, and go look at their history. Them motherfuckers work for legal aid. It's all a game, and they're playing it against us. We need to make the decisions, all right? And our own organizations can do that. freedmennation.org is the way for us to go, and we will get things fast, and we will get security, and we will get results. All we got to do is strive, and we got to stay in unity. Our unity is more powerful than an atomic bomb.